That's it. We're live. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this online special one-off event with myself, James Ski, who's the CEO and founder of Sales Confidence, and our co-host today, Adam Tully, who is the director and founder of Jai Search. Adam, say hello to the audience.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all well.
Adam, thanks very much for getting behind putting this together. We completely appreciate for many of you that are just about to join us how challenging and how nerve-wracking the market might be right now as you're navigating your career search for a sales or sales leadership role. So Adam reached out to me a few months ago about what we could do in this climate to provide some advice that helps you understand how to best position yourself, your CV, and your LinkedIn profile to give you the best opportunity to get the ideal role going forward. Now, what we thought about doing is we considered that process that you have to go from application to interview to placement. And Adam thought, well, why don't we get a group of talent experts in that process? So today I'm really excited that we put together a group of individuals that are going to share their expertise. So we've got Johnny Walker, who's a job-seeking coach. We've got Carolina, who's a talent acquisition expert, and Tim Baird, who's a sales director who actually hires people. Now, Adam is an expert recruiter in the industry, hiring and supporting VC-backed software companies. So, Adam, I'd invite you to ask, just to share a little bit about what your motivation was on putting together today's event, and a little bit about our speakers that I've just mentioned, who we're going to hear from shortly.
Brilliantly. So the reason why I approached you, I saw one of your webinars. And as you know, webinars are becoming extremely important and videos becoming very important in today's changing world. The audience that you have are people who are either hiring, maybe looking for a job, or actively looking for a job. What I've noticed is there are some people in the market who sometimes don't have to write a CV because jobs are finding them or their network's finding them. They're not looking to have to adjust their LinkedIn profile because in today's world, there are some great people who, not their own fault, they've been made redundant. And therefore, they need a bit of guidance in how to help themselves through the process. But also, as you said before, I want to introduce some people that can help you so you can understand what goes behind the scenes. As what all great salespeople are good at are messaging and positioning. So if you can get your message on point, it will help you get your job that you want. So I actually found Johnny as well for a webinar. And I was just blown away by his knowledge of LinkedIn, how he positions people, and how he gets six-figure candidates their ideal job. I've worked with Carolina for a number of years. She's a trusted talent acquisition person. She will certainly enable you to understand how you can find a job by using talent acquisition as a partner. I know some people don't see talent acquisition as a partner, but they can really help you and endorse your profile. And finally, Tim. I liked working with Tim. Tim sees recruitment in two eyes. He sees it from a CV perspective and also a LinkedIn perspective. He's coming from a MarTech background, so he understands social, he understands positioning. So, and when we work together, he looks at profiles, maybe slightly different to other people, but we're still looking on that strong messaging from a LinkedIn and a CV perspective. So I wanted to do this because if we could help you find a job, we're all in it together. You know, we're all here for commercial reasons. If you can find a good job, we can find you a good job, then we're all going to be happy.
That's super helpful. And I think what's important just for you as an audience to understand today is that, you know, we've segmented this so you can get value continuously out the session. So after Adam and I's opening, we're going to invite Johnny Walker up, and he's really got some insightful content on how you're positioning yourself in this market. Then Adam's going to take over, talking about things about your LinkedIn profile, CV positioning, and how you approach managing that relationship with recruiters and hiring managers. And of course, we mentioned, as Adam said, as part of this process, that once you're through the first gateway, there is a likelihood that you're going to interact with someone in talent acquisition. So we wanted to understand from Carolina, what does she look for on your CV to stand out against all the competitors you're going to have when you're applying for a role right now. And then once you've passed that part of the process, of course, you're going to be having multiple interviews with multiple stakeholders. And often, if you're looking for an AE or sales development role, or even a leadership role, it's going to be a senior sales leader like Tim Baird. So we've segmented that into 10-minute bursts of information. And at the end, we'll invite up a panel. Now, you'll notice on the side, there's a chat box. If you focus on the stage section. So as we go through this, just feel free to ask questions, and we will add in that interactivity as we go on. Adam, just to start with, just before we invite Johnny up in a couple of minutes, you've got a really interesting backstory about how you set up Jai Search. Could you just give us a little bit of flavor for that? Because I think it says a lot about your personality. Just talk a little bit about, you know, where you tend to focus your searches, and then we will invite Johnny to share his inspiration.
Yeah, I set Jai up actually 5 years ago, 1 month ago. And
Congrats.
The initials I use for Jai are J-I-E. And they're the initials of my children, which are very sort of dear to me. So I've been working from home for 5 years, so I'm fully used to all this webinar situation, Zoom, Skype. But the word Jai means connection in Mandarin. And I thought, that's what a great connection, you know, Jai, recruitment. So that's where we got the name from. And also one of my friends was living in the Far East at the time. What I concentrate on is VC-backed software businesses. So there's organizations that I can hire leaders, contributors, pre-sales, and also marketing experts. So a lot of the businesses I'm working with may be coming from the US or maybe European startups where they're looking for fast growth. They're looking for high achieving salespeople. They're looking for people that can actually put double-digit growth onto those organizations. I've been doing recruitment for 23 years. For the particular software space, I've been doing it for 20 years. So it's a fun space, it's a dynamic space, it's a demanding space, but it's also very rewarding. And from the situation we're seeing at the moment, it seems that some parts have been damaged by COVID, but there's a lot of parts which are very flourishing through COVID. And actually, there's opportunities. I'm working with one particular company who are providing a COVID monitoring platform, which is extremely exciting and extremely now. So it's very good.
Great, fantastic. So everybody will have the opportunity to interact with Adam and Jai Search, and this wouldn't be possible. And this is a one-off in terms of what we do at Sales Confidence. So I'm really grateful for Adam and all the speakers. So now we're going to invite up Johnny Walker. So Johnny has got extensive experience actually in the exec search industry, and he over the last 2 years. Hi, Johnny. Just doing the intro, teeing you up. Say hello so I can hear the audio.
Yeah, hi everyone. Can't wait to start talking to you.
Great, you're live. So he actually specifically has spent the bulk of his career advising six-figure earners on how best to position themselves in the market to stand out. So I'm really looking forward, Johnny, for you to inspire this audience. Adam and I are going to pop back behind the scenes, and we'll leave you for the next 10, 12 or so minutes. And look forward to you inspiring this audience. Thank you.
Alrighty. Welcome, everyone. Thanks very much for having me here. And a quick explicit advisory. Occasionally, a little bit of Anglo-Saxon language will slip from my lips. I'm not a very sweary person, but if you've got little ones in the background, you might want to put your earbuds in because you don't have to explain those words later. Secondly, I don't have a snazzy. My company does. It's called Get Found, Get Hired because it does that. It helps you get found and get hired. So there you go. And Jai, Mandarin. Wow. Okay. What's the Chinese proverb? Be careful what you wish for. Here we go. If you are a six-figure sales professional who's out of work and or looking for your next career move, then yeah, okay, we're all in the right place. Thank God for that. Your problem right now is that you don't have a job. Or more importantly, quite frankly, you don't have a process in which to get your next, which is measurable and has any guarantee of success, right? You're just reduced to flinging your CV at vacancies online and making a mind-numbing level of applications, which is not a lot of fun. I get that. The brain, your brain, hates uncertainty. If you've studied any kind of psychology, you'll know that. Uncertainty manifests itself as stress, You don't know when you're going to get back to work. You don't know when your next job is going to be offered and if it's going to be any good. Would it just be a means to an end? Or worse, a backward step? You're worried about your personal finances unraveling. I get that. They may have started to unravel already. And you're scared that you could be out of work for a long time. Or if you're of a certain age in the sales profession, and I know that ageism is illegal in the UK, but let's not kid ourselves. It happens, all right? The thought has occurred to you that that's your last sales job. You're done, all right? And an unknown career change is now going to be forced upon you. I get it, all right? I understand that because I've helped people like you, helped six-figure sales professionals get their ideal job. So if you recognize any of that, put it in the comments about how you feel. I'd be interested to see the kind of language you're using to describe your state of mind right now. So put that in the chat, please, under the stage label. Wouldn't it be better instead, here we go. Wouldn't it be better if your ideal job, whatever job that is, yeah, not just any old job, but your ideal one, came and found you faster, for more money, without you even having to sell yourselves? Sounds like moon on a stick, doesn't it? You're like, come on, Johnny, faster for more money without me even selling myself. Pull the other one. I get that, all right? That's the most common response I get when I help people out. It's actually easier and quicker for you to get found and hired for your ideal job than it is for you to find and apply for a less ideal job and then try and get that, all right? And that's because of 3 structural shifts in the hiring market, which I'm going to give you now, okay? So there's no sales pitch coming, by the way. I'm in marketing, so I kind of sound like I'm winding up to a sales pitch. There's none coming. There's nothing to click, all right? Most of you are all a similar age to me because you're senior people. You don't get to be on 6 figures and be a junior at the same time. And we are the last generation to grow up without the internet, all right? So if you're under about the age of about 40, the internet's been around your entire working life. Once you get above 40, back in the day, we can tell a tale of when there was no online. When if we wanted to buy something, we'd have to go down to the shops because that's all there was. There was no online. We didn't have enough information about what we wanted to buy, so we'd have to go inside the shop, and then we'd have to speak to a sales assistant. And however benign and professional that process was, it was a sales process, yeah? We were talking to them, getting the information we needed about whatever it was we wanted to buy, and at the end of that process, because we were stood in front of them, they'd try and sell us something, which is kind of what we went in there for anyway, isn't it? So no big deal. However, if you zoom forward to the 21st century, post-internet era, which is where we are now, and if you wanted to browse for stuff that you didn't have full information on, you don't schlep down to the high street anymore, do you? No, you just jump straight online. And that's because all the information that was exclusive to a salesperson, previously, that we were dependent on in order to make our decisions, has now been transferred to the internet, where we can access it all for ourselves. We don't need a salesperson anymore, do we? Uh-oh, bad news. Anybody know any sales professionals? This is more about the retail land I'm talking about. Obviously, big B2B sales definitely needs you guys. But whatever it is you were buying down the high street, let's just pick on some examples, TVs, holidays, doesn't really matter what. All those questions that you have, whatever it was you were buying, you could say, TVs, how heavy a TV can I hang on a UK stud wall? You can just get an answer to that from Google. You don't have to speak to a salesperson. What's the difference between LED and LCD? There'll be a PDF on that. You can just download it and have it sent to your email address. Yeah. If it was holidays, what's the sunny side of the hotel for my evening gin and tonic? Just get that from the customer reviews. You don't have to speak to a travel agent anymore. So you just don't need a salesperson to start making decisions. So, let's just talking about to job seeking, which is I know what you come on to talk to find out about today, but it's important you understand these 3 structural shifts, okay? So let's stick with TVs for a minute, and then we'll apply it all. It's important that you understand these shifts. So if you found a TV you like, it's got all the whistles and bells, it's internet connectivity, it's wafer thin, whatever it is you want, happy days. You now got to decide where you're going to get it from. That's when those marketing messages come into play, You get those adverts down the side of the screen. Maybe you get in your inbox and they say something like this: click and collect, watch the big game this afternoon. You know what? If that marketing message appeals to you, you're likely to be an Argos customer because that's what that kind of message is saying. Or it might say 2 years warranty instead of the standard 12 months, in which case you're probably going to end up buying it from PC World Currys, Currys PC World. It might say exclusive model to us. Actually, it's bollocks, isn't it? It's exactly the same TV you're after. All they've done is just change the plastic trim around the screen. So yeah, right, fine. Technically speaking, it's exclusive. Plus, they'll deliver it in a big green lorry, park it outside your house all morning for the neighbours to see while they install the thing for you. Yeah, it turned out you're a crashing middle-class snob and you're a John Lewis customer. Fine. I'm not here to judge. So you decide not just what you want to buy, but also where you're going to get it from. And depending on what you're actually shopping for, it might not be a TV or a holiday. It could be anything. You can ping your credit card details on the screen, and the whole thing just turns up in the post. Now, if you bore with me for that entire story, this is the point of telling you that, okay? Listening now? At no stage during that entire transaction did a salesperson even know you existed. Had no idea you were online, no idea you were looking, no idea you were about to buy something. They had absolutely no ability to influence that transaction whatsoever. Didn't even know you existed. In fact, it's no longer a sales process. It's no longer a sales world. It's a buying process, and it belongs to the buyer. It's a buyer's world. Unless the buyer, you and me, when we're out there looking for something, TV or holiday, unless we make a move, nothing happens, because the salespeople don't even know we're in the market. So now let's apply all that to job seeking, which is where it's going to start to get super, super interesting. Those 3 structural shifts. Okay, first thing then, pay attention then, big 3 shifts for you guys. It's going to make an impact on how you get your next job. First of all, the hiring manager, they're the buyer in our story. Yeah, they're the ones with the need. They're the ones that are going to go looking. You're selling yourself. Hi, I'm great. Here's my CV. Hire me. Possibly you've got a recruiter doing that for you as well. The hiring manager is not used to having to run the gauntlet of a sales pitch anymore, right? They just don't do that. If they're in the mood to buy, they'll buy. All right. And until then, would you stop hassling them with your bloody emails saying, I'm great, CV attached, covering email, blah, fucking blah. All right. They don't want it. It's just clogging up their inbox for something they didn't ask for, don't want, and is a waste of their time. There is a process at play here. And the process in the hiring market is a buying one. And unless you're allowing the hiring manager to engage in a buying process, which is what they do for everything else, including TVs and holidays, then you're kind of swimming against the tide, which quite frankly is. And you might be experiencing a little bit of that right now, chucking your CV out there and getting tumbleweed back, all right? So allow the buying process to take place. Position yourself to be part of the buying process. That's step 1, or structural shift 1. Second one, super big one this. If I was a hiring manager, I no longer have to advertise the vacancy. Yeah, hiring managers can start their buying process up without declaring the vacancy at all. They could look online. They could look on a CV board. They could look on LinkedIn. They could speak to their network offline, asking who they recommend, and they can do all that without you even knowing they had a vacancy. And they get to see several candidates, and if they like one of them, they'll hire them. And then they announce to the world that they've made a hire. We've made a senior sales hire. Joe Bloggs has got the job. You're like, what do you mean you hired someone? I didn't even know you had a vacancy. What the hell's going on there? It's called the hidden jobs market. It's not hidden, all right? The sales vacancy didn't sneak off behind the bike sheds for a crafty fag so you couldn't see it. No. It's a misnomer. It's just called the unadvertised jobs market. That's all that means. And the buying process is behind a screen. You can't see the hiring manager do it. So you didn't even know there was a vacancy to sell yourself to, all right? And that can be about half your market. And the more senior the vacancy, the bigger the share of the market that is, particularly right now when there's a whole raft of job seekers out there. Hiring managers are getting very quickly used to the idea not to advertise the vacancy because their inboxes are being crushed with the volume of applications. Instead, they're going to go looking, all right? So if you want to increase the size of the market that you're accessing, then it's only going to be through being bought because you can't sell yourself to a market that you can't see, right? That's the second structural shift. And the third thing, and you're going to love this because you're all in sales, and it's a thing called buyer-seller integrity. So super huge, this. If you're involved in a transaction and there is a salesperson involved as well, if the salesperson thinks that what they've got matches your needs about 75% or better, then they'll take a swing at selling it to you because that's what they do for a living, right? They're a professional salesperson. That's how they make their money. I have no problem with that at all whatsoever. However, remove the salesperson from the equation, as is the case online, yeah, where they didn't even know you existed. Remember, we talked about TVs and holidays, and the salesperson didn't even know you're out there looking. Then buyers do not get excited by a 75% match. You're like, kind of does what I'm after, but it's not exactly what I wanted. I'm going to keep looking, says the buyer. Actually, buyers get excited nearer a 95% match. That's when that ooh sound appears, like, ooh, that's exactly what I'm looking for. How much is that? And that's when the buying conversation comes to the surface. And there is a disconnect between those two numbers, isn't there? 75% match to needs when a salesperson's in charge of it, and 95% match to needs when a buyer's in charge of it. Interesting. And that's explained very simply. Salespeople are burdened, you're all sales professionals, are burdened with the responsibility of making money out of your transactions. So of course, you want to lower the bar as much as you can reasonably. And I think without being ridiculous, if you try to sell something to somebody that was only a 50% match to their needs, they'd just laugh at you. But at 75% match to needs, some customers start to open their wallet, and that's when sales tends to kick up a gear. However, on the buying side, buyers are not burdened with the responsibility to make money out of the transaction. Quite the reverse, actually. They're trying to solve a problem. So they have an incentive to make the integrity of that solution as high as possible. And again, without being ridiculous, because I think if you were buying something, you said, no, I'm not spending any money unless it's 100% perfect, you could wait a while for that solution. It probably doesn't exist, right? But at a 95% match to needs, there's a reasonable expectation that that solution does exist. And that's what buyers are happy to part with money for. So if you want your ideal job, yeah, and you want it faster, then you've got to present a buying process, right? Because that's what the hiring managers used to using pretty much everything in that. So present a buying process, use it to access a bigger market. And when the buyer buys, and this is the really important bit, right? This is what's the benefit to you is, if the first two things weren't benefit enough, when the buyer buys, they are more discerning than when a seller sells. So if you can position yourself properly to get bought, then the hiring manager is only going to contact you and send you a message and ask you to interview for a role if they perceive you to be a very high match to the role, around 95%, which is quite frankly when your interviews get a whole lot bloody easier. Yeah, stop selling yourself to stuff that's hard and start getting bought for stuff that's easy. Okay, so there you go. 3 structural shifts: process, unadvertised job market, and buyer-seller integrity. I only know all that stuff because I've had like 15 years as an award-winning executive search consultant, and then I did 5 years in digital marketing. I also won some awards for that, and I'm a trained copywriter. So basically, I know how to push people's buttons online, all right? I've helped over 200 six-figure executives in the last 24 months through the Get Found, Get Hired program, which I'm not pitching for today. If you want to know about that, just direct message me on LinkedIn or something. I also help several hundred people every 7 or 8 weeks through a free 5-day job seeking accelerator program. I'm not pitching for that today either. The thing I am going to do, because it is say to you, if you didn't want to check me out, go onto LinkedIn. I've got dozens and dozens and dozens of recommendations. They're all from very senior people just like you. You can see that, oh yeah, he actually does help people like me. 3 things you can do, okay? I'm just going to rip a link off here because I'm going to chuck that into the chat. I'm going to give you something of gift. So I would say follow this hashtag, Walker Talks. Let's see if I can't even spell my own name. There we go. Talks. That hashtag there, if you follow that on LinkedIn, all of my live shows, I do one on Monday at 10, one on Thursdays at 12. They're live, and I just give away free, basically consultancy, right? There's never anything to buy in them things. We don't do webinar pitches and bullshit like that. That's just free gift stuff. If you follow this hashtag on LinkedIn, which is the name of my business, then you get all the non-live content. That's all the there's PDFs, there's videos, there's all sorts of random stuff there. 2 years worth of it. I've given away some absolute gems over those 2 years. Go dive in. It's all on LinkedIn. It's all available. Help yourself. And
perfect.
There is a free ebook, 50 pages of pure gold distilled from the entire Get Found, Get Hired program. Just as a little thank you to James and Adam for inviting me on here today to help you all out. Help yourselves to it. There you go.
Thank you very much. Like that was a hugely insightful journey on those trends that have really changed. Johnny, we're going to be inviting back at the end for a panel discussion.
Yes.
And all his links will be available in email to you after this event as well. So now we're going to invite in Adam, who we opened up this event today. And naturally, Adam has got extensive experience of what you're going to be faced with when you're interacting with recruiters in this market. So Adam, take your time. It's over to you.
Thanks, James. Johnny, thank you. I advise everyone to look at Johnny's webinars. They're very insightful and he does get results. So, hi, my name's Adam. I'm from Jai Search. I want to sort of look at a couple of points today. Firstly, to help you understand what the role of the recruiter is. We sometimes get a interesting profile on the market, but we can actually help you find positions. I also want to talk about the positioning of your CV, especially as a high-performing salesperson, because you need to be on point, you need to have a message, and as Johnny just said, the market is very different to what it used to be, but you need to be in a position to put yourself at the top of any shortlist. So firstly, the role of a recruiter. I'd like to see myself as a recruitment Sherpa, a champion, someone that can help candidates find the ideal job. We position our candidates with our clients. But I think one thing which we need to sort of stress here is the clients come to us because they may be looking for a particular individual. Therefore, they haven't, as Johnny said, they don't want to receive an inbox full of CVs for an advert. They might want a particular profile. So what we're here to do is to help you get positioned correctly with the client. And we do that mostly through the CV and the LinkedIn profile. What we also do is we support you through the interview process. And we'll be talking about the interview process towards the back end on the panel side. But we want to guide you through that process. So number one, you've done the right preparation. You're also prepared to actually ask questions to the hiring manager or talent acquisition. Yesterday, I actually did an event with some year 11 girls over at a school in Hertfordshire, where I was teaching them how to do interviews around getting to sixth form colleges and apprenticeships. The most important thing for them was preparation, but also the most important thing for anyone applying for a job is preparation. You can't wing it. If you're not prepared for the questions, how are you going to answer them? So what I want to do is to be able to talk about how we're going to get the job and how you're going to get to the top of that shortlist. The first thing you need to do is, I think, be reasonable. Do I have the right skills to be able to do that job, or am I just hoping I'm going to get that job? You're better off applying for a job which fits your criteria rather than just sending a CV to a job which you think, I might have a chance of getting that. Because if you do, as Johnny said, it's just going to sit in the inbox and it's not going to go anywhere. If you can be in a situation where your CV, your LinkedIn profile, it stands out and is like, yes, I want to talk to that person, you've got a greater chance to get in that position. So what we need to be looking for is a CV that stands out. So one question which I'd like everyone to ask themselves when they're writing their CV is, can I make a difference? Do I stand out? Am I actually showing all the skills that I've got? So you need to ask yourself, am I doing that every single time I'm sending it to a job? If you're in a situation now and you're saying, I'm not getting any results from the applications I'm having, you've got to think, okay, am I applying to the right jobs, or am I not positioning my CV correctly? So if we look at the second point, am I not positioning my CV correctly? Talent acquisition and hiring managers are looking for three things when it comes to hiring salespeople. They want to see A players, they want to see high achievers, and they want to see hunters. I've also heard them called lions. But you need to be in a situation that you can demonstrate that you have this on your LinkedIn profile and your CV. It may only take a decision maker 30 seconds to rule in or rule out your profile. So what do we need to do? We need to focus on the positive sides of your CV. That's positive actions, sales achievements, and also the results. If you're putting the right things on the CV to say, yes, I'm a high achiever, yes, I'm an A player, yes, I can generate new business, you're going to get ticks in the box there. You're going to get someone say, yes, I want to look at that CV. As a new business hunter, as a high performer, you should be very proud of your achievements. I hear this sometimes, well, I'm not allowed to put the actual deal on the CV. I'm not allowed to do this. On your CV is your tender document. It's so someone can see, yes, am I achiever, am I not achiever? If you can't, or if the deal that you did is not in the public domain, you can just mention it. If you've done a deal with a large telecoms company that is a large mobile vendor, you can just say, okay, I did an X number deal with a telco player. You don't have to go into too much detail if it's going to get you into trouble, but you need to be able to demonstrate that I've done a deal. So what's the purpose of the CV? So if we take a backtrack, the purpose for you is to be able to get an interview. But the purpose of what we need to be looking at is, okay, are you attracting any interest in your profile? Are you creating a conversation? Do you have the points to show that you can do the job? On many occasions, I see a cut and paste job description where someone says, I was a sales leader for ABC company. These are my responsibilities. to be honest, most sales jobs have the same responsibilities. There will be different roles if you're an SDR or a BDR. There'll be different roles if you're new business. There'll be different roles if you're doing alliances. Yes, we can elaborate on that. But as a salesperson, you need to demonstrate that you're successful, because then you're going to be able to be in a situation that you can be on top of the list. I know you might say to me, okay, well, COVID's hit my market. I've had a difficulty. Yes, people are going to take into consideration how that is going to affect your figures. We had the same situation in 2007, 2008, 2009, when we had the financial crash. So you've got to think the market is always going to be affect how I'm going to perform. However, how do I stand out in this tough market? If you stand out positively, people are going to want to talk to you. So what you need to be doing is look at the structure of your CV. You've got to think, okay, I need to know, firstly, the basic details, the contact details, who you are. But what also I like to understand is a bit of a profile about you. So we should be looking at an understanding of what you are like a person. But primarily, I'm going to give you a list of things that you need to be looking at putting on your CV. Okay, number one, we need to be looking at targets versus achievements, placing them in the years that you've done them. We need to be looking at career achievements. Did you go to President's Club? Were you given an award for a certain deal? These things are important because they're good conversational points. You need to be able to demonstrate some of the deals that you've done, because if you're going for a specific role that wants you to demonstrate experience with a certain vertical, and you've done a deal with the major organization in that vertical, it's a plus point, it's a tick point. And it's a great conversation point. So therefore, if you have a specific territory, put it onto your CV. Because again, if you've got the relevant experience and it's an attraction to the actual person who's going to be interviewing, you should put it on there. You should also put, if you've got specific sales methodology, if you've done any specific training, because some organizations prefer you to have a certain methodology. If you've got that certain methodology, it will give you an advantage in the interview. Finally, you do need to put a description on there, but you don't need to make it 7 or 8 points. It needs to be simple, because as I said before, you could be lost in the first 30 seconds. If you've got a 9-10 page CV, are they honestly going to read the 9-10 pages? They're going to scan it, have a quick look. Is it worth it? Because they've also got another 30 CVs that have just appeared in their inbox in the last 5 minutes. So you need to show that you've got the right relevant skills, the right relevant knowledge, and the right relevant ability to be able to get the job done. But also we need to find about you. So if you've got any interesting hobbies, if you like doing certain things, I coach football. I love doing that. I put that on my profile. I like cooking. I put that on my profile. Because again, you're getting the personal bond from the particular person. The LinkedIn profile is different. The LinkedIn profile, I would not put your sales figures on there. It's a social platform. It's to demonstrate that you understand primarily social selling, how you position yourself, how you can get attracted. And the person probably to talk to you about that is going to be Johnny, and I would ask you to attend his courses because he will be able to position that. But again, the LinkedIn profile is about you, particularly position yourself socially. So therefore, you should be demonstrating activity. Who do you follow? What posts you put on there? Have you actually commented? Again, it's all about getting yourself known and seen. So what I'm going to do is I've just got 2 more points to follow. I actually ran a survey over the last 2 months, and I surveyed over 150 sales leaders that I know. And I asked them one question. And that question is, do you expect to see sales figures, sales achievements, and deals on a CV? Of those 150 people, 86 said yes to all 3. So if 86% of those 150 people are expecting sales figures, achievements, and deals on the CV, and you don't put those on your CV, what would you expect to happen to your CV? Do you think it will be at the top of the pile, or do you think it'll be deleted? Today's market's tough. So finally, what I'm going to do is my website has been placed on the chat. I have a link on my website. If you want to go and quickly click onto that, I can then send you a document, and I'm going to briefly outline the points that I've made today. And I'm happy to send that to you free of charge, no cost, no nothing. All I need is your email address. And what we'll do is we'll have that to you by Monday. So when you're putting your CV together, you can see all the necessary points that I've mentioned today, so you can hopefully get to the top of the pile when applying to all your jobs. So thank you for your time. If you've got any questions, we will have the networking later.
Awesome, super relevant, very specific insights, specifically on CV, which can feel like a minefield when you're trying to represent yourself. So I'm excited for this stage of the process. We're going to invite Carolina up. Now, Carolina is an experienced talent acquisition expert who typically and traditionally is set on the inside. Hello, Carolina, welcome. Who's typically set on the inside, liaising with external partners like Adam and Jai Search in her previous roles, but liaising just as importantly with the hiring manager internally. So she has a perspective that once we've covered a few questions, I'd like to find out a little bit more color, Carolina, of the importance of your role. But to begin with, just on the back of Adam's thread related to CV and LinkedIn positioning, first question for you, and I'll go to Carolina first, and then Adam, it'd be good to hear your thoughts again, is when we're reviewing the CV, are you reviewing the LinkedIn profile of the sales candidate? And what points are you specifically looking for? Like, what do you want to see? What should stand out?
Okay, so excuse me. I think that's sort of a twofold thing there. Yes, you will look at the LinkedIn profile, but not necessarily if you've had the CV through another source. So when you're in-house, the applications can come from all manner of places. There will be a point perhaps later down the line where you compare the two. And if I think that's what we're talking about. So I think it is important to have them matching, but like Adam said, they don't obviously need to have the same information on them, but LinkedIn and your CV should certainly match in terms of the years you've been somewhere, the places you've been, etc. And that is important. And often people actually forget that. So when you cross-reference, you could have different months, different years, and that will raise unnecessary alarm bells because it is often just an admin mistake that you've not gone in and edited. So that's one. And then, sorry, James, what were you asking about
what's on those CVs that you're reviewing?
Yeah.
What stands out? Like what are you looking for as key indicators that this is someone you're going to take forward versus someone else?
Yeah. So exactly the same points as Adam said. For sales roles, do put the sales figures on there. It needs to be targets, achievements against targets. And like Adam also said, what is good to see is precedent clubs, anything like that. Because when you're reviewing multiple CVs, that is what will stick out. And I think having missed them off as a recruiter in-house, if I send it to the hiring manager, they'll say, what are their numbers? Yeah, but I talked to them and they said that it was, but why have they not put it on their CV? It is a tender document. It's your first way of selling yourself and talking about how good you are. That is that bit of paper.
Adam, can you add to that? But also we had a question from Abdullah in regards to, figures that maybe aren't so successful. How do you typically advise sales candidates in that process?
I would be honest.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
Not everyone is going to hit a target every year. If you don't put it down there, questions will be raised later.
Yeah.
So be honest.
Perfect. You're obviously reviewing a lot of CVs. What are the bugbears or the mistakes, Carolina, that you find that are just, you must see them over and over again? They're just glaring at you, and you're just like, why? What do you typically see?
It's often the length of them. As a salesperson, you've only got one first impression to make. So make that first impression with the CV, make it short, again, we keep going back to the whole target thing. Spelling mistakes are really not a good thing to have on there. It shows a lack of attention to detail. Not every recruiter is going to worry about it. I do. And I think it's important to get that. Sorry, I've got a really bad line. Can you guys actually hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's crackling a lot. Sorry.
I think a lot of the things that Carolina and I work with is we want to make sure we get it right to the sales leader, because what we do is we minimise the time for the sales leader when reviewing the CV. So the sales leader, and when we get on to talk to Tim, people should not be spending 80% of their time as sales leader recruiting. A sales leader should be spending maximum 5% and 95% doing their job. If we put a CV forward and it's not matching the expectations or matching the desires, the sales leader is not going to be happy. So I think, as we both said, the CV is your tender document. If you get that right, you've got a better chance of winning the deal.
I think it's underestimated how important it is to have others, peers in your network, to give it a once or twice over as well before you start sending it out. I can sense, particularly over the last few months, people have unexpectedly found themselves on the market, and also potentially surprisingly due to surprise news or redundancy and changing strategy. And there is a bit of a pressure to get straight back out on the market. And I think already the advice has been shared about making sure that it's quality and that you're putting together a well-crafted CV with the right order of information. Is there anything else, Carolina? Adam mentioned kind of, personality and other history. When you're handing over a CV to a hiring manager internally, are there other things that they're asking you about the candidate that they want you to understand or express to them?
Well, yeah, I mentioned this to Adam before. I think it's often underestimated the impact the internal recruitment team can have. So they often are, or at the very least should be, a trusted advisor and a partner of that hiring manager. So I think as a candidate that has got an interview scheduled with somebody in-house, make sure that you bring your A game to the recruiter as well, because they will be asking you things like, what do you know about the company? What is it that interested you about the company? What do you know about our competitors, etc.? So if they have an in-house recruitment team, it often means that they are, yes, they're a bit of a gatekeeper, but they're a gatekeeper for a good reason. It's because they're trusted. So have exactly the same preparation to talk to the recruiter as you would for an interview with the hiring manager.
There's been situations where organisations have panel, and this is not just me working with Carolina, this is with other organisations, where someone from talent can actually blackball the opportunity for that person. Yeah. Because if you go through the process and they didn't do that well in the talent acquisition interview, it means they don't have a tick, and it means if you've got 5 in the panel, you've only got 80% of the panel, so you're not going to get the job.
Yeah, I think that is important, and as I said, more and more companies are actually investing in an in-house team, and they do that for a reason. They hire people in that team that they trust, that they're an extension of what their own interview would be. And I'd say also be prepared to have at least 5 to 7 interviews when you enter the interview process. It's never going to be quick. It's going to be even longer processes today, where it's super important that the few vacancies that companies have got get filled with people that have not only the right skills, but also the right cultural fit.
Amazing. Thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Adam. Just on this segment, we're going to have the panel in a bit. Is there any final parting advice you share, Carolina, that you would share just to those listening today?
I do think, make sure, like I said, I think that is the one piece of advice I would give. Make friends with the in-house recruiter. They will handhold you through the whole process. They should be, from that point of contact, they should be your person through that process from start to finish. If you get on with them, they'll help you get the best offer they can possibly get you. And they will update you on anything you want to know, any little quirks about any of the managers, anyone that you're going to meet in the process. If you get on with a recruiter, they'll tell you all that.
That's great advice. I think that's underestimated how important your role is in that process. And what you've highlighted there is the important, like the sales process of a champion, getting someone on side so you can get those snippets which help you prepare for the next stage of the process.
Exactly that.
Amazing. Okay, well, Carolina, thank you for participating in this aspect. We're going to invite you back shortly, but we're next going to invite Tim Baird, who's a sales director at Observe Point. Now, naturally, as a leader, Tim's having to identify members and individuals to join his team, and naturally is going to be very cynical of any figures or no figures on a CV. But I know, Tim, the reason why we got you involved, one, because you're keen to support people out there in their search, but also because you're an advocate of LinkedIn yourself. So, you know, the question really, similar to what we asked Carolina to begin with, is, but from your perspective as a leader, what are you looking for to identify in a CV? And what's going to stand out, which means you're going to invite someone for an interview and a conversation?
Thank you for asking, James. Good to share the stage with you. And Adam, our recruitment Sherpa. I think I need to get you a T-shirt. That's awesome.
That'd be great. Have it in black.
Maybe we can get that on a hashtag. Maybe that's the hashtag, Adam.
I'm going to try that. That's excellent. I'll put that down.
Do it. Okay, so 3 things that I typically look for on a CV for a sales candidate. Number one, and it is in order of importance. Number one is transferable skills. So you probably think I'd be looking for those president clubs and the overachievement on quota, but transferable skills. And what I actually mean by that is things like grit. So that real passion and perseverance, just a lot of effort, but it's working towards something. It's clear that you have a goal, that there's something about you, and resilience, so that you're not giving up, you're pressing forward. Those things are really important to me because the sales function is changing. It's not just COVID. People are buying differently. We're seeing things in the SaaS space like product-led growth. So the way that we even work with other departments in the business. So those transferable skills and how you can change and adapt, just that resilience to fight when things are against you, super important. Number 2 is the numbers. I do want to see the numbers. I agree with everything that's been said, that they're a must-have. And not just the numbers. It might be if you're quite early on in your sales career, or if it's a more junior position that you're going for, that you're able to mention how your performance was measured and how you've performed against that success criteria. And going back to the conversation that you had with Carolina earlier, it absolutely is best to be honest about how you've performed, because I will find out. It always comes out, and there's a lot more behind performance than just the numbers. And I will decide in an interview whether your future performance in an organization like mine, and it'll be the same for every sales leader, whether you are going to perform or you're likely to perform rather than not. A quick example, someone may have overachieved on quota for 3 years. Someone else may have underperformed, but did not have SDR support, did not have marketing support, was opening a new territory, was taking a new product to market. So actually it could be that their experience, albeit they haven't achieved the quota that set out, is more relevant to the role that I have. So lots of ways to slice and dice it. But I just think it's good to be honest about those numbers, but they're important nonetheless.
That's super helpful, Tim, thinking about how you view and uncover, the quality in a candidate from what they've wrote on the CV. So you're looking for elaboration in their roles beyond just the results that can be related to deals, but also the go-to market they've been involved in and the vertical they might have sold in. the type of people, stakeholder management that they've mapped out. And also we had mentioned earlier from Adam, you know, the methodology or training that you might have been involved with as well to uncover those insights. Adam, do you have anything to add before we start talking about LinkedIn?
No, because I like linking what Tim does with LinkedIn and the CV. So that's what I like. So yeah, let's do the LinkedIn first. So
how do you kind of take a view on individuals' LinkedIn's profile, and also just to add to that, what approaches do you get on LinkedIn that go well and don't go well if they're direct and they're trying to talk to you?
That's me or to Tim?
That's to Tim.
Tim.
Okay, you have to repeat the question because I thought that was directed towards Adam.
The first question is related to how you view candidates' LinkedIn profiles.
Yep.
And what information you're taking in from their LinkedIn and their activity. But also I've snuck one in there is do you get direct outreach as well from candidates, and what do you see or what would you expect that is good versus not so good? So we're asking about the LinkedIn profile, what they're doing on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, thank you, James. So first of all, for me, LinkedIn is a sales showreel. It's not a CV. It needs to be consistent. I totally agree with that. It's been said, it needs to be consistent. If it's different to the CV, it's an automatic, I don't go any further. However, for me, it's a sales showreel. What I want to see is how you're behaving on LinkedIn. Are you building your personal brand? Are you connecting with relevant people? In your last role, did you share content? Doesn't need to be videos, and I think they're cool. I think they're super. I really like how I'm seeing that develop on LinkedIn, but you need to be sharing content. You need to be commenting on other people's content. So it's just that activity that's very easy for me to look at recent activity in just a couple of minutes. Because what I'm looking at is how are you going to behave in a role with me? Have you been exposed to social selling? Is that something you do? Or are you a lazy salesperson? So that's the thing. Have you set aside that time to social sell? Can I see that activity? So yeah, that's how I view LinkedIn from a candidate perspective. I like that you snuck in a question, an extra question. And I'm not approached very often. So I think that stands out that, you know, perhaps that's an opportunity. When I have been approached, those candidates that have stuck out are those that are able to connect something about them to something that I've described in the job description. Very simply, and not a long paragraph or loads of bullet points. It's that they want to talk to me because they have some experience that relates to a very specific part of the job description.
That's super helpful. I think myself, I spent 3 years at LinkedIn and I got to see behind the scenes. And I think when those start actively job seeking, they go quiet on LinkedIn because, you know, they're maybe detaching from their existing organization, or you might not be, unfortunately, in a role right now if you're watching this live or in the recording later. But actually, you still need to be active. You know, you still need to be either talking about industry trends. You need to be sharing your company's content. Maybe you don't necessarily feel the same affinity with it, but you need to be demonstrating that you're active, because the expectation is that you're going to be able to hit the ground running when you join someone like Tim or another sales leader. So that's really important for me, is that you do stay active. And then you're also thinking about those key individuals. You know, today we've had the recruiter on the front end, Adam. We've had the talent acquisition expert, the sales leader, i.e. the hiring manager. These individuals need to be part of your network on LinkedIn once you know you're engaged in that process. And then you need to be visible by commenting on their content about what you're seeing interested, so that you become part of their world. And that's going to help you stand out with other individuals when you're approaching that process.
James, that's important. It's everything we've said here is about positioning yourself on point, that you're actually talking to the right people It may not be, and as what Johnny said before, people buy differently now. And we need a connection. You need to have activity. You need to be doing things so you're seen. And, you know, when we're getting to an interview stage, it's not just about the CV and the figures. It's about, can you work with, so can I work with Mr. Joe Bloggs? Does he have the right sort of beliefs that I do? Does he have the right connections that I do? So we're just not making it a black and white process here. We're looking deeper. And because of the internet now, because of LinkedIn, because of social media, we can do more searching than we did. When I was doing recruitment 23 years ago, it was CVs. I used to go to a tray and find CVs. There was no internet. But you know what I mean? So it's changed. So you have to do it in different dimensions to get the right interest.
Thoughtful. So let's invite up Johnny and Carolina. If you can come back and join us. Johnny's already started to tee up some questions, but listen, those of you that are still remaining here, this is your opportunity to get something that might be holding you back right now, that you're a little bit unsure of, that you need some assistance with. But while you're building up to it, welcome back, Johnny and Carolina.
Okay.
Something I'm going to throw in there. I know we've got a couple of prepared questions, but we can take as long as we need now. We'll probably spend 10, maybe 15 minutes in this discussion area, and then there's networking, so everybody can have one-to-one conversations with everyone on the call till 4, which is super helpful, because I appreciate some of you are feeling sensitive right now in terms of putting yourselves out there. So privately, one-to-one in the moment. After the next 10, 15 minutes of a panel, we can go there. Just before we start, one thing that I haven't heard come up in this conversation, so I'm throwing this one out there, is references and reference checking. And so I wonder if anyone's got a take on that. Is, do you do them? You know, what do you expect to see from a reference? I've got a few facial reactions, so I'm going to say, Carolina, why don't you go first?
Okay, so yes, it happens. I'm going to be very controversial, and having been part of HR departments, I have been slammed for this more than once. I think they're pretty useless. You are never going to give somebody a name of a person that's going to say anything bad about you. And if they say something bad about you, you can't use that reference anyway, so it's illegal. There are other ways of doing it, and I think having a conversation with somebody that I don't mean illegally going back behind and taking references that weren't authorized, but there are other ways of doing it. What I do find useful is background checking, on the other hand, and that's the official sort of, is there a criminal record? Have they been at the company from this date to that date? They're useful.
Awesome. So, you know, that comes back to the truth basically on your CV as well, because you will get found out eventually. And being honest is been advocated. Johnny, have you got a perspective?
Oh, yeah. So, obviously, Carolina has to play by the rules because of what Carolina does. The rest of the world does not and doesn't, quite frankly. If you're a very senior person, and you apply for a job and you get offered that job and you fill in the paperwork and it goes to HR, and HR will apply for references from your previous hiring manager, previous line manager, etc. And they'll get back the standard uselessness, which is, yes, this person was hired between date X and date Y with this job title and we didn't fire them. And your new hiring manager is absolutely none the wiser. Like, I got all that out of the interview. This is not helpful to me at all. And so an off-the-record verbal reference is often used to supplement the decision. And look, it's not going to happen every single time, but once in a blue moon, the person that hiring manager chooses to verbally reference you with is someone you pissed off in the past. Right? It's going to happen. You can't have a long career and you can't have a senior career without having cheesed someone off. You know, you're in a meeting, someone's being a dick, you took them down a peg or two, and 18 months later, that's the person whose phone rings like, hello there, I'm about to hire Carolina. You work with Carolina. Can I have 5 minutes to talk to you about her? Oh, yeah, Carolina. I remember Carolina. Yeah, of course I can talk to you about Carolina. And they just put the boot in because they're that kind of a dick. So how do you mitigate that? And there are ways of doing that. You can get your network to email the hiring manager and say, I understand you're about to hire Carolina. We worked with her. She was great. I'm sure you'll have fun. It doesn't have to say anything amazing, certainly no detail, literally 2 lines long. But if the hiring manager gets 2 formal references, which are fine, does 2 verbal references, one of which is fine and one of which is duff, and 3 unasked for references, you now got 1 versus 6. And that one is now looking like what it is, which is the lone voice howling at the moon rather than the voice of credibility. So you can stack the deck in your favor. And if you do that regularly, every time you change jobs, sometimes what's going to happen is the unasked for references will arrive at the hiring manager before they do the verbals. Now, they've already made the decision to offer you and you've accepted the job, right? You filled in the HR paperwork. So you actually get to benefit from the thing called confirmation bias, which is where the hiring manager is now looking for confirmation they've made the right decision. They actually don't want to hear that it might be a bit of a risky choice. So they'll actually then choose a couple of the unrequested referees to do the 5-minute verbal with, which means you've just controlled the uncontrollable, which is who do they call? And of course, your unrequested referees aren't going to say anything disastrous about you. They're just blowing sunshine up your ass. So, can I have 5 minutes to talk with you about Carolina? Oh, you just emailed me. Actually, can I have 5 minutes with you about Carolina? Yeah, of course you can. And then now you've got a raft of verbal references and formal references, which are all fine. So you can influence that. But it's going to happen once in a blue moon, not every single time you change jobs. So once in a blue moon, a verbal reference is going to go against you because that's life, right? We're not friends with absolutely everybody we meet.
Got it. Johnny, thank you for the insight. Adam,
and I've done this with Carolina before. When you're recruiting for a particular company and you have such a strong relationship with both the candidate and the client, you can actually get references even before they've been interviewed first time. Yeah. And you do that, number one, please, if you're looking for a job and you've done a great job somewhere, go and get a recommendation on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Because you can go and see it. And if I'm talking to a candidate and they've got a recommendation from someone I really, really know, and it's a really positive recommendation, that's going to put a tick in your box. Because we're all known of certain groups of people. And if you've got a good recommendation from someone that I know is a great person, that's a great tick in the box.
I agree.
Yeah.
What I will also do...
So just to jump in on the recommendations piece, do not think they have to come from people like your boss. They don't. All right.
Yeah.
When I'm a hiring manager, I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile. I have no idea what the relationship is between you and the person giving you the recommendation. So it doesn't really matter who they are. It can come from subordinates. It can come from superiors. It can come from peers. It can come from suppliers. It can come from consultants that worked alongside you. Wouldn't it be lovely if the senior manager at KPMG blew a bit of sunshine onto your LinkedIn profile? They didn't even work with them, but they were on site at the same time as you and said you were a great person to work alongside with. You really knew your stuff. Lovely. So you can get them from all sorts of places. I think there's 4 or 5 places per job that you can get a recommendation from. You've changed jobs 3 or 4 times in your career. You've now got 20 recommendations, and I get 1 duff verbal. I'm thinking, hold on a second. Is that really right? Because all these people think you're lovely. I may even go there and ask one of them. I'm really looking for confirmation of my decision. If someone questions me in a year's time, why did you hire that James Ski bloke? And they're like, well, we took some formal recommendations, some references, and then I took some informal ones, and they're all fine. Okay, fine. It's kind of, quite frankly, ineffective due diligence that covers the hiring manager's ass. So,
all right, I'm going to interject here, Johnny, just for some other questions to come through. Enjoying the passion coming through. This is really interesting comment that's come through from Emily right now.
Yeah. Around,
do you think it's a good idea to use the open to work picture? And so I'm just going to add my view, actually, because I like the question. I think right now, the world has been upheaved in such a unique way that there's a level of empathy out there, which I don't think I've seen ever on LinkedIn before, where people genuinely want to be helpful. And I think, actually, yes, it's a good thing to do, to put the open to work picture on, because I actually think it can create a connection and opportunity with people that might be able to give you a leg up. That's my personal view. Adam, what do you think?
I think it's a good thing, but it's not the only thing. If you rely on it, you'll fail.
That's a great point. I mean, it's not passive. Nothing. I think this whole event has been talking about how you can control your outcomes and create the success for you. It's not going to magically mean that everyone's going to be knocking on your door and calling you. You need to be putting yourself out there with the recommendations that Tim's put forward. Tim, what do you think?
I think it's a good thing. I think you need to do everything you can. So that's one thing, one element that you can control. just got to do everything. Got to fight for the next position. So I think it's a good thing. Okay,
so the idea that you should make yourself visible is important. Naturally, if you're employed, you're currently in a role, and it's okay. You're probably not going to publicly let your bosses know that's what you're doing. But there is a button behind your profile where you can put open to work, which you can find on LinkedIn, which means recruiters like Adam or talent acquisition people like Carolina that have access can see that you're active on the market, which is helpful as well.
Can I just say something? It's not just people who are looking for a job that we talk to. I think also you need to differentiate yourself from everyone in the market, because the right job may come up that a headhunter might want to approach you about that you're not even thinking about a new job. So I think you need to consistently have your image, your profile active.
Yeah,
it's like
two seconds on Emily. I agree with what Adam's just said there. All right, and I don't agree with anything else that was said. And Tim, I've yet to meet the hiring manager who woke up in the morning and think, do you know what I need today? I need to hire someone who's not in work. The open to work thing, I don't think it makes a jot of difference. I don't think any hiring manager cares one iota whether you're in work or out of work. What they care about is what you can do for them. And if you can do something for them and you're not out of work, you're in a job, they're still going to hire you anyway. So I think I fundamentally think that the reason why that green slash round on your face is there is two things. One, it's something that LinkedIn can appear to do without actually having to do anything. That's virtue signaling of the worst kind. And secondly, I know that there are some recruiters out there, not the likes of Adam and Brazil, but there are some recruiters out there who are actively looking for people who are immediately available because they get their commission faster. Now, if you want to be the flame that's attracting the moths, the bottom-feeding recruiters of the world, then by all means, stick the green circle out there. You're going to get them all hounding you. All right? But if you want to get your ideal job, be of value to the hiring manager, and that's going to be true now, yesterday, tomorrow, all the time. It's got nothing to do with your work status. So there you go.
Great. Just looking at interviewing, a question for Tim. When you're actually in the interview process, so we've moved away from the the CV, the LinkedIn profile. What are you asking? What do you want to find out in that interview process about a candidate?
Yeah, I want to see signs of high emotional intelligence. So it's really easy to do that in an interview, or should be, just to be open and to be yourself and to express yourself, to listen. And that sounds obvious, but to just really be active in your listening. And I know that although you may have thought about and prepared some statements and some experience, you're really listening to my questions and answering them as genuinely as you can. I think self-belief is a big one. It's hard to teach that, or I'm happy to help with self-belief, but probably not someone that I've hired in a sales role. I want someone that really believes in themselves, not arrogance, not delusions of grandeur, some quiet confidence, some humility that they don't know everything, but really backs themselves. I need to see that. And probably the biggest thing is just that they can connect with people. And that means they need to connect with me. I need to feel that we've got a connection. And if they're not able to do that, perhaps because they haven't been open or they haven't told a story, however they find a way to connect with people, if they've not been able to do that in an interview, I will struggle to feel like they could do that with my customers or my future customers.
And I think that's an excellent point. I think particularly now with this world we're in behind the screen, I actually think that's being missed a lot of the time, that people aren't allowing that time. In my eyes, while you're being interviewed, it's your time to put the best of you forward. So you need to also manage that to be able to express yourself confidently. And one thing is, there might be a lot of imposter on your shoulders or in your ears right now, but let them figure out what you are and what you're not. Just express yourself in the most positive way possible. Carolina, what have you got to add on kind of interviewing tips?
Yeah, no, I agree with Tim. I think it's a lot more about the person than people think. And being yourself goes a massively long way. But I think it is also about impressing. and you've got to impress the person you're meeting with what you've got, what you've done, and where you want to go. And I think having a bit of a plan when you go into the interview of what you want to talk about, but be prepared to not be able to talk about it, because the interviewer, if they're good, will control the interview, not you.
Can I just say something? There's 5 different characters here, and we're demonstrating there's 5 different people in the process. You also need to do the research on the people that are interviewing you.
Yeah.
Find out what their interests are. Go to their LinkedIn site. Send them a LinkedIn connection, or find out other things. Speak to people about, oh, I'm going to go interview at Tim. I see that you're linked in with Tim. What's he like? If you prepare that, again, we've all said before, you're getting a connection. You're getting to the top of the ladder. You're making sure that you're seen, you're known.
Yeah, I did agree with all that.
Adam, I'll just put it to you, as you've helped us put this together. We've covered quite a lot of ground here. Is there something you think we should draw out of our other guests, a question that you think we should be asking that we haven't covered yet?
I think it's what we've done here is we've given a perspective of every single person in the process. Okay, and it's not just about sending a CV and hoping you get a job. You need to do a lot more things to get the job. And I think all of us, James, you've got the network. Johnny, you know how to do the marketing. Carolina, you're the person that's in the talent acquisition. And Tim, ultimately, you're the person that lives and dies by the hire, because that person needs to generate revenue with you. So we've all got a vested interest in this particular process. And it's not just a single shallow process. It's an in-depth process that if we all work together, we can all be successful.
Yeah. I'd echo that, Adam. The Walker Talk show that I did a couple of Mondays ago, the Monday shows are about just starting your week right and getting your game head on. And I talked a little bit about don't try and do your job seeking on your own. All right. You're all senior people. You're used to working in teams or managing teams of people. Become the CEO of your own job search and gather your board of directors together. Who's the person who's going to do the proof check of your CV? Who's the person who's going to help you practice the interview? Who's the person who's going to give you constructive feedback? It's not going to be your auntie. She's going to tell you you're lovely. All right. You need to get someone who's going to help you. Who's the person you're going to go to when you're having a bit of a down day? You just need an energy boost. Get a team around you and check in with them from time to time, and don't go alone. All right. Otherwise it can be very lonely, because you're not going to get a win every single day, or even every single week. You can get to the Friday and think, what the hell did I achieve this week? You get a team around you, you can start getting some progress, some milestones, and break it down into chunks. And, on a Friday, if it wasn't one of your best weeks, you can speak to your team, right? And just say, how do we think it went this week? What should we do next week? Accountability partner. There's another one. We all wake up on Monday with grand ideas about what we're going to do this week, don't we? And then Friday, you think, no, didn't do half of that. If you tell someone on Monday you're going to do it, and I'm going to speak to them on Friday, we can let you know how it's going. You have this accountability partner. Who's your team? Who's your tribe? Who are you taking with you on your job search, so that you're not ploughing that lonely furrow on your own?
That's excellent advice.
Maybe some of us might be those people. I'm not shilling for anyone here in particular, but whether it's a decent recruiter or somebody from can give you a confidence booster, or somebody who can give you an insight into the inside track. Carolina, it might not be a role that Carolina's hiring for, but if you knew Carolina, if you're one of her friends who was out of work, and say, Carolina, how does it work like from your perspective? Give me an inside track. I'm going to have to face off against someone like you at the company I'm applying for. Get these people on your team. All right, don't go at it alone.
Thank you, Johnny. Carolina, have you got a parting thought? And Tim, before we wrap up?
Tim, you can go if you're ready.
Okay. Parting thought is make sure you know the why. And it goes back to what Adam said about applying for those jobs that you are potentially a good fit for. You need to know what you want, the why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to be in sales? Why do you want to work for company X? And what's the long-term goal? I think that goes really well in an interview. It comes out if someone's unsure of themselves, or they see themselves in 2 or 3 different roles, then there's questions I ask that it will come out. It's funny what we achieve when we just absolutely want it, and we put that kind of stake in the ground. So get your why nailed down. Yeah. If you're out of work, now is a great time.
Yeah, no, and I agree with what Johnny said. Utilize your network. Always talk to your network. Connect with more people on LinkedIn. Speak to people. Do pick up the phone and speak to people. Don't just rely on messaging and emails, and the actual art of talking is still really important.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to ask Adam to wrap up in a second, but I'd just like to thank all of you for getting involved today. You know, this has all been recorded, so those of you that were here live, those of you now watching the recording, make sure you share this with anybody looking to make that next step in their career, if they're in or out of work. Thank you to each of you. This has actually been quite a unique experience for Sales Confidence. We've never had this broad range of perspective, so well done for coming together on this topic. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Tim. And then just a shout out really to Adam and Jai Search for what this wouldn't be possible without his idea and his motivation. So air clap for Adam. Thank you, Adam. Adam, do you just want to wrap up and then we can head into the networking for the last 15 minutes?
All I can say is go to Johnny's hashtag, go to Johnny's website, go to his ebook, go to my website for information. And if you want to have a chat with me or anyone else, just send us a message in the chat box.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for hanging around. The networking button's just there on the right or the left, I believe. So if you click that, you can have some one-to-ones with people behind the scenes. I wish you all the best for whatever's next for you. And thanks again for all the speakers and Jai Search for making this happen. Take care.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.